Hello everyone and welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hood, joined by Chris Pajak and by Dan Club. Yeah, breaking news. Spoiler, we were about to sit down and film our biased football podcast. The agenda included such things as Manchester United's transfer plans, Everton Stadium, all that kind of stuff. That's been shelved. As you can imagine, we're here to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold. So to set the scene, reports came out last night that Trent had agreed a deal to go to Real Madrid on a free transfer at the end of this season. It came from various reports, mainly from out of Spain, elsewhere. This morning, Fabrizio Romano then posted something. Alex Crook of TalkSport also said it feels like it's a done deal. And then about 30 minutes ago, David Ornstein, probably the most respected football journalist in Britain, said Real Madrid are working to close a deal to sign Trent Alexander-Arnold on a free transfer. Real Madrid must inform Liverpool even when it's done, but that's not happened yet. The Spaniards are monitoring the 26-year-old right back for 2 years and are doing everything in their power since January to convince him to join. So, Chris, it feels like now without it being done, official or boxed off, this news I think a lot of us have been expecting, but it feels like now it's almost there where it's going to be out sooner rather than later. Trent's going to Real Madrid for nothing. Yeah. What are your initial thoughts, mate?
Nothing's actually changed, and yet everything's changed almost, hasn't it? Because absolutely. I think everyone was expecting that this was going to be the case. I think everyone knew that he was going to go to Real Madrid. What I will say is it feels like I've had an arrow to the heart with these things, even though nothing's changed. I feel like, oh my goodness, it's actually happened. I thought there was a little part of me that was just hoping maybe that it wasn't going to happen. And I think 99% of me kind of realised that, you know, it was going to happen. But that little bit of hope was keeping me going on it. And, you know, I think Liverpool have probably been planning for the future in terms of a new right back for a little while now. But it feels weird because we've watched this kid grow up at Liverpool, haven't we? We've watched him go from a kid to a man to, you know, the best right back in world football. And then you've seen people have a go at him for not being a good enough defender. And we've lived through everything. We've won league titles. We've won European trophies. We've been champions of the world with him. And now he's moving on to Real Madrid. And, you know, for me, there is no bigger football club than Liverpool. And kind of would have assumed that Trent would have felt the same, but maybe not, Dan.
No, perhaps not. No,
definitely not.
I think I mentioned this yesterday on the show that we did. It's a fresh challenge thing for him. I still think he'll have Liverpool, you know, right up on a pedestal alongside the best clubs in the world. Absolutely will. He's a boyhood red, and it will have meant the absolute world to him to have achieved what he's done. And you mentioned there in terms of like we've got into bat for Trent a lot when it comes to like the criticism that he's received, and you know he's often been spoken down. He's been left out of international squads in the past and not been given the praise and the recognition that he deserves. And Liverpool fans have been right there at the front line saying, no, this kid is the best in the world. Absolutely is, yeah. And he'll be aware of that and he'll be privy to all of that. So he won't have his love and affinity with the football club won't have evaporated overnight. I don't think that's a fair sort of thing to say. But when Real Madrid, and I don't like this as much as anybody, by the way, I'm not defending it necessarily, but when Real Madrid come calling, especially for somebody like Trent, who clearly, football's one thing, but he wants to sort of transcend football, it feels like to me. He wants to be a global superstar if he isn't already. I think that the lure and the attraction of Real Madrid to him outweighs the football side of things. Plus, you said it there, he's won everything there is to do in football at Liverpool. He's achieved a lot. So that new challenge, that can he go over to Spain and can he conquer that? Can he be that guy? It's going to be really difficult because it can be a bit of a poison chalice, that move. We've seen it down the years. If they turn on you bad. So he's got that to contend with. But yeah, I don't think he's necessarily turning his back on Liverpool, or it will look like that to many.
You say that right. I see your point. But there was another Scouse fella a few years ago who did exactly that. Like this is Trent Alexander-Arnold's choices.
Absolutely.
Steven Gerrard was offered Real Madrid and said no a couple of times. You know, Zinedine Zidane apparently approached him and he said no.
Yeah.
Like, I see your point, and it's Real Madrid and the lore of it. But do you feel let down at all, Dan? Because you know he's done. He spoke a while about, you know, he wants to be the captain of this football club.
Yeah.
We've seen players in the past leave. Steven Gerrard didn't leave a well worse Liverpool team than this, for example. You know, Michael Owen and Steve McManaman did similar, but they were playing for pretty poor Liverpool teams. Alexander-Arnold's one of the best players at a team who are about, you'd like to think, to be Premier League champions. We're competing for European trophies on a semi-regular occasion. He's won, like you mentioned before, he's won loads. It feels different because, and I think I'm reading the comments, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. Like, so I think there's a lot of anger towards Alexander-Arnold here, and I think it's for that reason. We're good, and there is precedent of another Scouse hero turning that club down.
Yeah, and that doesn't shock me that there is anger and animosity towards him. How
do you feel, by the way, Minty?
Yeah, I know I am. I'm disappointed more than anything else.
No, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
No, exactly, like Chris. So in terms of I remained hopeful the whole time. People for months have been sort of saying it's inevitable, the writing's on the wall, he's going to leave. Even throughout all of that, I've remained a constant, no, he's going to stay, he's going to at some point. But that was based on the fact that Boiled Red, obviously,
I never thought that, by the way.
Oh, I
just had the hope that
he
would.
I thought he might, because I thought, I didn't really blame him, nor the others, by the way, to bring them into it just quickly, for waiting and seeing a little bit what this Liverpool team is capable of and what it can achieve. And by this point in the season, we pretty much know more or less what it's capable of. And then some, by the way, because I think there's more to come from it. So I kind of thought, now he's going to go, do you know what, actually, I've waited and seen what it's like after Jurgen Klopp, and it's fucking brilliant. FSG, for all their faults, they appoint best in class above, so let's just see what the next bit of it is. I thought he might turn around and stay at that point, because all the loyalty and all the love he has for the club, plus the fact that we're boss again, I thought that would sort of combine and make him stay. That isn't what's happened. I think the fact it mentions 2 years they've been chasing him for.
That's the killer.
The timing element and all is he got a 4-year deal in 2021, I think, and that in itself is a little bit eye-opening. So yeah, I'm gutted, absolutely gutted by it, because as much as people will now, dismiss him out of hand and say he was never any good, he's been an absolute genius for Liverpool.
There's a million different threads to pull on this, Chris, so let's do it. We've got time. The first one is that part that I want is the reporting is he's been speaking to Real Madrid for 2 years. He's been January 24. There was more serious conversations. So that was in and around when Jurgen Klopp announced he was leaving as well. So if the 4-year contract thing, there's a school of thought out there that this has all been orchestrated for a long time. This isn't just this could have happened even if Jurgen stayed. It's nothing to do with all that kind of stuff. And that again, that goes to show the Lord of Liverpool thing that Dan said before. It just feels like he wants to go to Real Madrid. Liverpool could have been 6th this year, or Liverpool could be Premier League champions, which we think they're about to be. It feels like he's had his heart set on this for a while. If that is all true, sorry.
Yeah, listen, I think anyone can look at that and go, yeah, this is ultimately what he wanted. Yeah. Now, for me, he's been at the football club for 18 years or something like that, had many different contracts at Liverpool and, worn his heart on his sleeve at times and done absolutely everything he can as a footballer to help shape the future and the present and the recent past of Liverpool. But where I struggle with it is, well, if you've had that planned, mate, then that, for me, is a bit strange. Like, if you've planned that for 2 years, then that's weird.
It's what Kylian Mbappe did it.
Yeah, and I expect Real Madrid to do it.
Yeah. They do very well.
They're great at it.
Yeah. Listen, and I think Liverpool and top clubs in England are going to start doing it more and more to clubs inside because of FFP and everything else. And this is the way to get paid, isn't it? Quite honestly, without a transfer fee, you're going to get a bigger slice of the pie. The money that is available to a player is much more when there is no transfer fee.
Yeah, we got a big signing-on fee, won't he?
A huge signing-on fee.
And that's the thing.
And that's the thing where, as a Liverpool fan, I go, you've literally just ran your contract down to get paid, mate.
Well, he took vice captaincy in that time period as well. I think it's probably fair to assume, you know what I mean? So there's different elements of all this. Listen, I am gutted. I am gutted by this, because you don't want to see your best players walk away from the football club full stop. You certainly don't want to see it when they've been there for so long, as you mentioned, and they've done so much and we've achieved so much with him. And I did have him down as heir to the throne success with the captaincy. And now that's not going to be exactly, and that's not going to be a thing even. There aren't many football clubs in the world that could turn anybody's head from Liverpool. In my mind, there's not. But to a lot of people, there's one.
Yeah, and I get it. It's just different because he's a Scouse, isn't it? There's a million ways. I want to do the legacy thing first. Then I'll start. Danny has, you mentioned this, Scouser gets a song sung. Being the Scouser in the team, that is Trent's song. He's got a mural. He's been on adverts. He's done everything. Again, I'll go back to the comment. There's a lot of people. There's rat emojis. Yeah, one from here, Cyberzone. He's a little rat, simple with a super chat. He's paid to say that. You know what I mean? There are people clearly angry at the player. Yeah. We'll speak about the Liverpool and how we got it here in a moment, but it does. It feels legacy-wise, this is really going to hurt. He should have been an all-time Liverpool great. No questions asked. You never have a bad word to say about him. And that's not going to be the case.
Well, he's going to go down, and you mentioned some of the other players earlier on. He'd be in that bracket now. Where he'd be keeping that sort of company, won't he? Maybe he'll be.
Owen was the best player in the world.
The
officially.
United thing helped tarnish it even further. I think it's fair to say, but still, the point remains. Absolutely, McManaman similar. It's brutally damaging to that. Absolutely it is, yeah. And there will be, it's a massive shame. Massive shame. That's one of the biggest shames out of the whole thing. You know what I mean? The fact that you're right, I would have loved nothing more to be sat here having a completely different conversation, saying he signed a new 5-year deal, and then we can't start speaking about what his legacy means in the longer term. He is in the Steven Gerrard sort of category by that point, but it's the opposite. And I don't think there's much coming back from that, because we celebrated literally this weekend just gone. Legends return to the football club, heralded on the hallowed turf back at Anfield. Trent probably might not get the opportunity.
And it's a shame. It's a shame, Chris, because we've adored the guy. He's lived the dream that all of us wanted to live. Every single lad who loves football, every single girl who loves football in this city has wanted to grow up and play for Liverpool. Most of them. Some might have Everton, but even they probably would like to play for us. And it does feel like, say, that it's going to tarnish it now, when it shouldn't, because lad developed through the system, comes through, turns himself into one of the best right backs, if not the best right back in the world. He was certainly up there. Wins the Premier League for the first time in 30 years, wins the Champions League, wins numerous cups, champions of the world. He assists in them games. And the first thing, unfortunately, you have to guess in like 10 years' time, a lot of people are going to go, yeah, but he left on a free for Real Madrid.
Yeah, and that is the way that it's going to be looked upon, isn't it? There's not going to be time right now to look at the reasons, because there have been no reasons. So in the absence of information, people fill them in themselves.
Well, on that then, a lot of the ire and the animosity is seemingly led around the finances of it all, and people just assuming, whether rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying they are either way, by the way, they immediately say, well, it's finance related. Now, you're right. The offer of that huge signing on fee, Liverpool can't match right now, because we're not in a position, as far as I'm aware, to randomly give a player 20, 30 million bonus for signing on again. But aside from that, we spoke yesterday about Liverpool have seemingly offered contracts to Trent and tried financially to make it lucrative enough to he stays. So did you think the reason is money related, money driven, or do you think it is that fresh challenge, wanting to go and try and complete football, conquer another country?
I think it's both, to be honest with you. I think, trying to keep my ire out of it. I think if you put yourself in his situation, you can honestly look at Liverpool and go, he's probably not won enough in the years that he's been here for what his talent probably deserves. And therefore, if you put yourself in Trent's shoes, where are you going to go to make a difference, where people are talking about the 30 or 40 trophies that you've won in your career, like the likes of Lionel Messi at Barcelona have done, or Ronaldo has done, any of those lads who've got 5 or 6 European Cups at Real Madrid over the last 10 years. Modric is at 6 European Cups.
Danny Carvajal is probably the right back. You know what I mean? Literally.
That's the type of stuff where, as a footballer, you must look and go, I'm going to win loads more. I'm going to win loads more, and I'm going to be one of the most successful players that's ever played the game.
Throw into Real Madrid doing us in the Champions League as well. He's experienced that firsthand. And he probably looks at them as being, again, the only step he could possibly make. I don't say it's right, by the way, but that's just
I do go back to the Gerrard comment of, winning trophies a year would mean more than winning 10. He literally said that. I think he said Chelsea.
That is Gerrard.
Yeah, no, it's
I love that, by the way.
This is what I'm saying. I see your point, but then when there's another example of probably the last...
the other example really doesn't matter, because it matters what Trent thinks.
No, I agree, but I'm saying
it pisses us off.
Yeah, I'm talking about the reaction.
He was Gerrard.
Yeah, of course.
I'm talking more the reaction to it, because you're right. I'm explaining it. We've got a comment here actually, and let's move on to this one, because again, it's about the ownership and how it's got here. So, Just My Toys, thanks very much for the super chat, says it's ridiculous that anyone says he has ruined his legacy going. Fans need to blame the senior management for allowing not only him but Van Dijk and Salah's contract situation to come to this. I'll put it to you, Chris, by all accounts he's been offered contracts. Is it slightly different than the Van Dijk and Salah one? Because we're led to believe they're still in negotiations, they want to stay. This is more a case of trying to come to some type of deal. With Alexander-Arnold, does it appear like he's been offered contracts but he wants to go? I don't know. How much blame do you put on it?
The first point, I suppose, is he is completely different to those two players because of his age.
Yep.
That is, I think that the problems with Van Dijk and Salah's contracts are to do with Liverpool not wanting to overcommit to somebody entering the final years of
they wanted to commit to Trent.
Yeah, and they wanted to commit to Trent's prime.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference, isn't it? So yeah, in that regard, they're completely different for me. And what was the rest of the comments?
So yeah, it was just fans need to blame the senior management for allowing the contract situation to come to this.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do. I think we dropped the ball, a few years ago. Now, if these contract negotiations had started 2 years ago, then maybe not.
We don't know, do we?
We don't know.
We were led to believe he's been offered contracts.
Ultimately, the fact that Van Dijk, Salah and Trent have been left to get into this situation says it's a club fault.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that.
Major mismanagement.
Yeah.
Major mismanagement.
And we're about to enter into it again, by the way.
With a few
We've
more.
got Ibu Konate coming up in 2026 as well, haven't we?
There's others. There's more. It absolutely.
Diaz is another one.
Yeah. What we do know with this in particular, and the sporting directors that have and haven't been in, it's been massive upheaval, and that's on the club, that's on the board, that's on FSG ultimately. And at some point, someone should have taken ownership, because there have been some constants. Mike Gordon's probably the one I'm pointing the finger at here. He has been at the club, and if he really wanted to tie down 3 of our most important assets, whether it be on the pitch performance, I think you're right about the Salah and Van Dijk stuff. Liverpool are looking at that through a slightly different lens, suggesting that it's return on investment that they need to see. Now, based on the season performances, that's there for to see. Will it be there in 2-3 years' time? Different question. Trent was a no-brainer because of his age, absolutely. But in that time period, since he last signed a new deal, and the others in different ways, we've had Jörg Schmadtke in situ for a period. He was never ever given the keys to do the contracts. That wasn't his remit, which is fair enough. He did a decent job with the midfield rebuild, but whatever. Julian Ward came and went. Michael Edwards came and then went back, and now he's back again. It's been a mess, an absolute mess. And that's on FSG ultimately, and that's why we are where we are.
My 2 pence on this, if what it's worth, from 2 cents rather, if anyone cares, is I think if Salah and Van Dijk go for nothing, I think that's the club's fault, because they should be offered new contracts, and by all accounts they haven't. Liverpool have offered Trent new contracts. This feels like it's more his choice. So we're led to believe Van Dijk and Salah want to stay. If they leave, that is not their fault. They want to stay, and they want to be compensated for what they're worth. I completely agree. This fella's been offered 3 contracts, and he's been made the vice captain. At some point, what can you do? And then I heard someone say before, it was why didn't we sell him? Well, we've seen this is the Real Madrid playbook. This is what they do. They got the best player in the world, probably one of the most valuable asset in the world. I think that's undoubted, in Kylian Mbappe, for free. And I say free because they paid the sign-on fee by doing this tactic. I personally think you have to separate the two. I fully say if Van Dijk and Salah go, that's the club's fault. Yeah. They want to be here. It feels like this lad doesn't want to be here no more, and that's where I think I can make the distinction. But you are right. We're in a situation where the contracts are all here. But I had someone say to me on Twitter before, Chris, why didn't he just sell him? Well, he'd have to want to be sold. If Real Madrid had been on the phone for 2 years going, we'll get you for nothing in a couple of years, mate, just hang tight.
But by all accounts, they tried to in January, didn't they?
Yeah,
but a
low ball 20 million.
Chance we're doing this because we've got a league title, so winning more at that point as well. I think I loosely agree with you there, Steve, but what I can't get away from is the mismanagement of the squad regardless. Yeah. Because you can't be entering into the final year of contracts for any player and not have a backup in mind. Now, you can tell me all you want about Conor Bradley, and I'm going to throw back his injuries. I think he's a fantastic footballer.
It can't be him.
But it can't be Conor Bradley, not to replace Trent, not without somebody else coming in as well. It can absolutely be Conor Bradley when he's fit. He's good enough to do it. Yeah. But we're talking, who's the backup to Van Dijk? Who's the backup to Salah? And we've got a backup for Trent Alexander-Arnold, but he has his own injury issues. That again comes back onto mismanagement of the squad over a period of time.
You mentioned future planning a minute ago. That's Liverpool need to be doing that for Trent. Because I love Conor Bradley. I think he's brilliant, but he's not the answer. Romano's just tweeted.
Yeah, like I say, we don't know what the plans are, do we? It's just one of them. Sorry, I'll get that in a moment.
It's a video. It's just a Trent Alexander-Arnold and Real Madrid, and then there's an emoji, and the video says what the video says. I've got no idea.
Yeah, it's academic now. He's filling his boots, isn't he? Why not for it to go and fill your boots? Josh goes out another way. I'm going to read some super chats out and get back to you guys. I wish the lad all the best, says Josh. Time to put this drama aside and focus on the rest of the league. In fact, I'm going to do that now. The timer of this is stinky, Chris. In that Liverpool haven't won the league yet. They probably will do, but there's a job to be done. Does this unstabilise? What's the atmosphere in Anfield going to be like? Now he's injured, that might help. But when he comes back, does he get booed? Is there a negative reaction? Is that at all a hindrance to Liverpool's title chances? That's all in play here. I know Josh says he wishes him the best, but I don't believe that every single person in Anfield will be feeling the same way that Josh feels.
No, I don't. But I tell you what, this is where I'm torn myself, right? because I know that Trent's given absolutely everything that he can when he's been on the football field for Liverpool. I know that. And even this season, let's be honest, most of us thought he was going, and no one could question how much effort he's put in this season and how much of a difference.
The only one time was Man United. Man United, he got.
And that I might be wrong, but that was around the time of that Real Madrid bid as well. And he was. I said this yesterday, so apologies if you're watching again. He was public enemy number one. It was
quite toxic around that time.
You know,
but
you've seen players down tools, and he hasn't down tools.
No, you're right on that. Yeah, he's come back from that. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there is a part of me that goes, I don't think this is going to actually affect it. I think the players in the squad have known for a long time that Trent's going. I don't think the atmosphere in the squad changes, which means that therefore I don't think it affects the team moving forwards. I think there is going to be a change in atmosphere in the ground, certainly in some sections, and I fully understand and agree with that. But I also think there are going to be huge swathes of people who are going, there's a league title to be won. So Everton, is it going to affect it that much that we're not going to get up for a derby and support our team against Everton Football Club at Anfield? No, it is not.
It might help that he's injured, mightn't it?
Well, yeah, but it's not going to affect the atmosphere there. And then, you know, by the time he comes back, we're still going to be fighting for a league title. And so I don't think it really does undermine us this season, if I'm being honest. Could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Sam says, we need to sign a new right back now. I mean, yeah, you like to think that they're doing that. Thanks to your Super Chat, Sam. Michiel says, will Real Madrid fans be as forgiving as we are towards his errors? I can't imagine it's going to be as easy as he wants it to be there. That's kind of the point you made before, Dan, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's tough. They are merciless.
We've excused some of Trent's faults, and he's not perfect because of the good he brings. Whether Real Madrid fans are as willing to accept that, I don't know.
I've never thought he's going to be a right back for Madrid, you know.
Make all play sense.
That might be right.
I've always thought he was the heir apparent to Tony Cruz.
Yeah, it could be.
I've always thought that.
It could be a bit of both, couldn't it? Could do the old inverted jobby thing. Marine's Malevolent, a nice name, says, don't give him any more minutes in a red shirt. That's the kind of thing, Chris, what I'm talking about before. That is, as there's a section of the fan base who are going to be thinking that way. Now, my point would be, don't cut your nose off to split your face. Now, if the league title's won, though, Chris, say Liverpool win the league title before he's back, that is a decision that someone's going to have to make. Do you just say, you know what, mate, this might get bad for you, just sit it off, see it at the parade? Or do you go, you know what, get yourself on the pitch and see how it goes?
Hang him out to dry.
Get him on the pitch.
Hang him out to dry. If you've won the league title, like, you know what I mean?
Let the people decide.
Let the people decide, absolutely.
I fear that. Not in so much as I'm not asked. It's not me that's on the receiving end of it, but I think that'll turn nasty.
So do I. I think it could be really, really...
And I don't blame people for having the feelings, by the way. My opinion is my opinion, and you guys are more than entitled. I get every single angle of this. So
if I was them, and if the league was won, I wouldn't pick him. I'd let him get his medal, and I think everyone would be so happy and jubilant on that day that it kind of goes by a little bit. He's not going to get I mean, I might be wrong on this, Chris. The Klopp, Matip, Thiago send off of last year when they ran towards the crowd, got the names read out, thanks for everything. Even the year before, there was presentations on the pitch, Roberto Firmino and all that. Like, it's not going to be that, is it?
I honestly don't know, you know, Steve.
Okay, if that happened, how would you react to that moment? It would be so. Would you give him the ovation that you give to Bobby Firmino, where you sang a song for half an hour? I would find that difficult if it was.
No,
me.
But I would thank him for what he's done.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I the legacy thing, I find it really difficult to even muddle through my own thoughts on it, because I think everybody has an idea of how you're going to think in a situation, but until it actually happens, I don't think you're 100% sure. Yeah. Like I use this example all the time. I watch 2 American football teams that I don't care for, and I find myself rooting for one over the other for no reason. I didn't know I was going to do that, you know what I mean? But I find myself going, I want them to win or whatever. If Trent Alexander-Arnold is stood clapping the cop, right, there is no way I don't clap him back, because he's clapping us, and I clapped them back. And I was taken to the match by my dad, and I believe that you should respect the players that wear the red shirt while they respect you. And if he stood there clapping me, I'll clap him back, mate. And I don't care what people think of me for that. And I won't think in that moment about fucking legacy and all this. What Trent Alexander-Arnold has done at Liverpool Football Club is nothing short of exceptional. You said it yourself before. It is every child's dream. in this city, whether you're boy or girl, and from afar as well, if you support Liverpool, to grow up and do what he's done for Liverpool, I'll thank him for that, because he's given me, as part of a team, some of the best nights of my life.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I don't know how I would react. You're right. I don't think I am as positive as you that I will clap back, if I'm honest. I think it would be more of a, all right, sound. I would never boo.
Yeah.
I would never boo. I don't believe in the boo and stuff, but I don't know. I'd have to see. Actually, I'll find out. No, I'll just find out on the day. We've got. Let's see.
What would you do, Dan?
I'm with you. And as you were talking, I was thinking about it really, and I think a lot of. Obviously, he's been a brilliant servant to the club. Let's have it right, like he has. He's given us a lot. Some of the best nights, some of the best memories, some of the best moments we've had in sort of modern history. I think a lot of the legacy stuff, in a weird way, will be defined by what happens next when it comes to the Liverpool Football Club. Like, if we're boss for the next, 10 years, 15 years, whatever, it might actually soften the blow for Trent a little bit. But if we struggle, a lot of more animosity and fingers will be pointed at somebody like Trent for leaving us and abandoning us a little bit. You know what I mean? It looks like we're in great hands, so good. But I think that will play a big part in how he's perceived.
No, yeah, I think that's right. I think you can think back to Phil Coutinho leaving, can't you?
And we were great after. So
At the time, I was like, what the fuck, man? Now, time has passed, and I realised that Liverpool got better when he went.
Exactly.
And I'm like, you know what, Phil, sound.
To be fair, though, it can't be defined, but I feel like that's really important as well. Yeah.
They got 150 million quid.
Which
they went and bought someone. That's a difference.
There's tangible reasons there, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, but the thing with the Coutinho stuff that done me was this whole faking injury lark and all that, and the plane and all that type of stuff. I don't think Trent's done any of that. No. Trent has a contract at Liverpool Football Club to play football for them, and Trent has fulfilled his contract at Liverpool Football Club, and he will, I'm guessing, fulfil that until the day his contract ends, at which point he is allowed to leave and go wherever the fuck he wants.
There are players who felt. I remember the
That's just the way it is.
I remember the COVID stuff, and there was players who refused to play after COVID and stuff because they were worried about getting Trent got injured flying into a tackle.
You can't question his commitment.
I think there's been time. United, I was like, oh, his head's gone here, but I think that might just been his head was gone. Kind of thing that the whole situation might have been getting on his nerves a little bit. Right, the board should hold some blame, says Sam. Yeah, I think we touched upon that earlier, mate. Thanks so much for that. You go back and watch it if you joined us a bit later on. Donny, £5 super chat, says, was he not with the Real Madrid players in the nightclub in the summer? He's been talking to them for 2 years. That's a disgrace. That's kind of the point a little bit we spoke about earlier, is that this isn't such and such of he's decided to wait for slot. He's kind of kept his options open. If it's been 2 years ago, Jurgen Klopp was the manager 2 years ago. In the summer of 2023, or this time 2023, Liverpool were actually trying to win a quadruple or hoping to try and win stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? That's the. No, 2023 was when they were shit. Don't get me years mixed up. Within that time frame, rather last year, these started. So,
but again, that comes back to your point earlier on about it looks like he's had his heart set on this move for time. And listen, let's tell you, right, we haven't mentioned the fella's name yet, but Jude Bellingham's probably got a part to play in this as well. Like they are.
When we saw all those pictures and we were like, oh yeah, that's good news. Turns out
how fucking wrong we were. But it's true though, because we know they're close. Let's not beat around the bush. We're fully aware of that fact. The Bezies aren't they on international duty and all that, and it's grim. But Jude's got there in and around that sort of time frame and gone, it's bossy, come and join me as soon as you get the chance. And here we are.
It happens with players, top players.
This is the thing that's interesting though about this comment here from Donny, is that we're a long way away from the footballers mixing in the pub after the game. They are mates with each other, which we can't get our head around. When you see a few years ago when our Brazilians, Bobby and Alisson and everyone were going in planes with the Manchester City players.
Kevin De Bruyne's best mate with Virgil van Dijk.
These are the things that we know about, but we don't almost want to believe. But they earn so much money and they're wrapped so much in cotton wool that, has anyone ever worked in a bar, right, where you're like a supervisor or a bar staff? You end up being mates with people because they're going through a similar thing to you in life. You might not have anything in common with these people.
I hate you, but it seems to be friends.
But then after you leave, you might be the best workmates ever, but you never speak to them again because that's what binds you. And these guys have got. Who are they going to talk to about what their problems are in life and how they deal with stuff? It's only other footballers. And that's the thing, isn't it? So I don't actually put too much in the fact that he's mates with players. They're all mates with each other. They hate each other on the football field. But ultimately, that's because they're paid to. They don't actually hate each other. We're a long way removed from footballers genuinely despising each other, across the teams. Look at Carragher and Neville now.
Yeah,
Look at the Pezzies.
No, you're right. I'm with you, mate. I agree completely. Marine's malevolence, the price of a person's loyalty is the Real Madrid share. Thanks for your super chat. There is some toxicity towards it.
We were talking a while ago in the office, weren't we? I think me and you definitely have had this conversation, maybe me and you as well, Steve, but about like what he wants from football. And this is the kind of thing where it's like you've got to put yourself out of the situation and not look at it with your red tinted glasses. Like, he's a part owner in Alpine, isn't he? Yeah. With the Formula One team. You know, you mentioned to me about like David Beckham stuff. I think at the time.
The brand deals.
The brand stuff, deals. Yeah. That's what it wants to be.
And like, if you want to own an MLS franchise, or you want to be like a LeBron James on a Nike shirt or whatever, where is best for your career? And if I put myself in Trent's shoes, whether I like it or I don't like it, Real Madrid is the football club that offers me that more than any other football club in the world.
My counter, though, my counter to that is, it depends what he does. If he's going to go and be the right back, that's not going to happen. Because Mbappe, Vinicius, all Danny Carvajal has won 6 Champions Leagues. He hasn't got his name on a brand.
That's because of Danny Carvajal. That's because I don't think Danny Carvajal is that way inclined. I think Trent, if he really wants to be, you're right.
Okay. Real Madrid is the place
to do that. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood football. It's Galactico, and I don't subscribe to it. I don't like it. I don't want it. But you're right. If you can take a step back and remove yourself from the fact that we are Liverpool through and through, we want the absolute best for us. That's probably what it is. That's probably what's driving this, I would say. Genuinely, it's grim and it's not for me, but it's true.
We've got another super chat. I understand him wanting a new challenge, but we're a club whose owners don't spend money and he's leaving without getting a penny. He says JCDC. First point is, right, I am not and we get accused of all kinds of FSG love and that. Like, they spend they do spend money. They probably don't spend enough money, but this idea that we penny pinch, I just don't think that's true. The Liverpool sign players, they just don't sign top of the market players. That's a problem, I get it. But the fact is, that's kind of where it hurts a lot. Phil Coutinho left, but they got 150 million quid for him, like you mentioned before, Chris. But Trent's engineered this situation himself. I go back to the Mbappe thing. Why would Real Madrid give us 50 million quid for him? Or like whatever. They offered us like 20 or something in January. Yeah. It's buttons, like, that stings a little bit. I've seen brilliant players leave Liverpool, but for a lot of them, you've got what they were worth. Some haven't. But like Fernando Torres, it was vile, some of the abuse he got, but Liverpool got good money for him at the time, 50 million quid for a lad with one knee. Luis Suarez, it wasn't great, he refused, he was kicking off. Liverpool got good money. Mascherano, similar, not as much, but decent enough money. The fact that it's a free transfer definitely, I think, leads to more of this negative reaction towards him.
Of course it does, because I think everyone thinks that, he owes the club football something. He doesn't actually, in the cold light of day, doesn't owe the football club anything. They pay him a contract every week to do the football. He doesn't owe Liverpool Football Club a transfer fee. And that's, I think, what people think. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, because, as much as I want Liverpool to have had a transfer fee for him, he's been there and given his entire life from when he was 8 years old until he's 26 years old. It's not his fault Liverpool didn't sell him 2 years ago. And it's not his fault that the players have the power. He's taken advantage of a situation like we all do in life. We're all humans at the end of the day. And if you give me, look, say we were doing a transfer to, I don't know, fucking Liverpool Fan TV or something like that, and you were there going, well, I could just wait 6 months and I'm going to get a fat wedge in my hands, or Chris and Paul get a little transfer fee of buttons. What are you doing, really?
How much do they pay me?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what a human would do, though, isn't it? You would go, well, I can stick it out for another 6 months and get a big wedge myself.
Can I put this one to you, Dan? I'll put this one to you, right?
You would, though, wouldn't you?
It depends. Can I put this one to you? Because this idea, and again, I am not, it comes across like I'm defending, I'm not, right? If the owners would have sold them a year and a half ago, they'd have got accused of selling your best players to buy someone else. It was, you know what I mean?
You can't win if you're an owner.
Once the fella wants to leave, if you sell him, you look like a prick. And if you let him go on a free transfer, you look like a prick. I don't know how you're winning that. If the fella wants to go, Dan, what you do?
No, you're right. I actually think one of the more damaging aspects of all of this is not just losing Trent, it is losing for free because of our model. That's brutal. And I actually disagree slightly in terms of our investment. I don't think we do invest enough, generally speaking. I think we are a bit penny pinchy sometimes. But you're right to a point. But I think if it became public and common knowledge that this was happening, And if we didn't sell him at that juncture, he was just going to walk away for nothing. I think there'd be more sympathy with that. I don't think there would be that cry of lack of ambition for selling your best players. If we became aware that Trent was desperate to go to Real Madrid, like we've all kind of said here, his heart was set on it. At some point, he was going to leave the football club for free, and that was his end goal. That was happening no matter what. You could offer him all the contracts, all the money in the world, the vice-captaincy, the captaincy further down the line. But he was done at Liverpool. I think they could have sold him at some point, if we knew that.
Can I counter that?
Of course.
They're about to win the Premier League.
Yeah, but
so what's the Premier League worth to you? Because would if they'd
so you're telling me, so we could have sold him 12 months ago and not done something that made us win the Premier League again?
Maybe, but maybe not. Like, if we think he's the best and he's going to be really hard to replace, then what does 50 million quid get you?
I agree.
This is a little bit like the Genie Wijnaldum thing, where they thought one more year we might as well try and win.
Oh no, Liverpool have decided that it's not worth it.
In January, they did.
I think a year ago, because
I
think they knew that he wasn't going to sign a contract this year. I think you'd be blind to not plan for that fact.
Can I
regardless of whether you think he's going to sign a contract or not, you as a business owner have to walk path. If he's going to sign, we're cool with that. If he's not going to sign, we know he's going to leave for free. Yeah. They're two decisions that you have to make as a business owner.
There's probably a number. There's probably a number where you go, all right, £50 million, we might as well keep him. £100 million, yet we'll sell him.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay £100 million for that with 1 year? That's
who can afford to?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. This is on Real Madrid because they do this better than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just don't make the bid.
They're just sitting there
never
like
make the bid. Even if you decide a year ago, even if Liverpool decided a year ago, we'll sell him if a bid comes in. Bid doesn't come in, what happens?
No,
you do what he did to Mbappe. You get on the blower and say, stick it out, lads. Don't leave. Don't go to Bayern Munich. Don't go to PSG. There's a £30 million signing on fee with your name on it. And all of a sudden you snook it. It's very, very difficult. It really is.
Can I just bring up something else about that last comment?
Yeah, man.
There is...
The ownership one, sorry.
The ownership one, absolutely. I think it would be totally understandable for Trent to feel exactly like that. I think that...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think, you could be in a football club, whether we've got opinions of whether FSG have been good or bad or indifferent or whatever. He might have an opinion of Liverpool don't invest enough in this squad, and that is why we only challenge once every 5 years.
Yeah,
and that might be the reason.
The lack
just
of
as much
ambition
as anything else.
Absolutely on the cards.
It has to be. It's got to be. If he was winning Premier Leagues every single year and challenging at the business end of European Cups and not missing seasons in the European Cup, where he might not have had this in his head. But the fact is, we don't.
Is the counter, though, the 2 years that these talks have happened on, Liverpool have competed for all those trophies. They haven't won, but they're going to win one this year. They won.
I don't think it will have felt like he's competed for a Premier League last season to Trent.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Because we weren't in it when the title race started.
Okay, because you're right, because these conversations, if they happened in 23...
we were in the Europa League last season and got knocked out early doors.
And a Carabao Cup, as much as we loved it, for the man that was won, that's not
enough. No, I agree on that.
Yeah.
I don't think... Yeah, if you want to go somewhere and guarantee yourself to win, Real Madrid's the place to go. There are very few clubs in the world. Go to Paris if you want.
We haven't retained a trophy since the 80s.
I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult, again, in this Man City-led world where we're in, until whatever happens with them comes out. Yeah, I don't think there's any English club who can guarantee anything. Look at City now; they might not win anything this year. I think you're right. If it's a guarantee of trophies, you've got Spain, it's Madrid, Bayern, PSG, or the guarantee of guarantees. It should be City, but who knows? We're there at this moment in time. So I do see your point.
Go on, sorry. Let's have it right. Like, he also mentioned the Ballon d'Or recently, and if he does, whatever. But that's something he wants, and if he wants to be in those sort of conversations, those sort of circles, he needs a guarantee of.
He's in the wrong team for that.
He's going to the wrong team for that.
That's
what I mean.
Because Mbappe and Vinicius.
You are not going to win the Ballon d'Or at Real Madrid as the right back. I know. I see your point. If that's true, if Real Madrid win the Champions League, Kylian Mbappe or Vinicius Jr. win the Ballon d'Or. The right back doesn't fucking win the Ballon d'Or.
My argument exactly the minute I heard the quote, but that's what he wants to be. That's what he wants to do. And to the point about trophies, Carabao Cups, and even one Premier League under, we've seen the Salah thing literally recently. Like, Salah was absolutely storming away in terms of the Ballon d'Or voting. Liverpool get eliminated from Champions League. He's plummeted. Rafinha's the favourite all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Crazy,
so that's what you've got to be doing, and Real Madrid bring that.
We've got loads more super chats. I'll try and get through some more. Nexus TCG, thanks very much with the $14.99 Australian dollar super chat, says, do any of you lads have any faith in the club replacing these three lads and bringing in the required reinforcements we already need next summer? That would be a massive net spend, I think that's meant to say, whichever way we do. My opinion is that I think Van Dijk and Salah are going to stay. Trent, the replacement, I don't think they're going to spend £100 million on a right back. I think they might look at a right back of a decent quality. Yeah. You're not going to get someone who's as good as Trent. I don't think. You might get someone who fits Arne Slot's style better. Like, he might want a more conventional right back. The rest of the stuff, I think it's so much up in the air. You could tell me Diaz, Nunes, Jota, Elliott, Chiesa, Robertson, Org, Timmercast, Kelleher, all go, and I wouldn't be shocked. Now, I don't think all 7 will, because I think that's madness to change over 8-9 players, but you don't know. My opinion on Liverpool's recruitment is that Liverpool, when they recruit, they tend to recruit well. It's whether do they recruit enough, or do they do enough all the time? I'd say probably not. Like, if you look at the midfielders they bought 2 seasons ago, I think you can't complain with the 4 lads they've got, particularly. But are we short in other areas? I still think definitely that is the case. So I think it's a bit of both, if I'm honest with you.
It's a massive summer. Massive. Yeah, and it's probably the most important summer I can remember. I'll
ask you the question: do you have any faith in the club replacing? I mean, do you think they're going to go? Is the first question, because that would be question
I would
one.
Be quite shocked if Salah stayed at this point.
Okay,
I think Van Dijk stays. I'm very confident with that. And you're speaking to the guy who was ultra confident all 3 would stay 3 or 4 months ago. I would be a bit surprised if Salah stayed now.
Oh, and
the Trent leaving thing might help that, because there might be a bit of cash left over. Potentially they could sort of divvy that out, but I think Salah might be off.
This is how mad my sort of thoughts are at the moment, but I've said all season long, I don't think Liverpool should be spending £300,000 on a right back. You know, and you guys know I've said that, and I've truly believed it. And I actually think Trent is the most replaceable of the 3 players for that reason. I think you can get a good quality right back for very little money that fits into the system. Now, you are going to have to replace some of the magic that Trent does in other areas of the team, but I do think we've got a good core group of players where you can. I think it's easy sometimes to just go, well, we'll just rely on Trent, and then all of a sudden when Trent's not there, you kind of struggle. Whereas I think if you know you don't have a Trent, you have a game plan, you have a system, etc., etc. So I think Trent's the easiest to replace. And what I will say on that, I don't think Liverpool should be spending £300,000, because I understand what type of owners we've got. If we had the ownership of a Newcastle or a Manchester City and we were completely fine with FFP regulations, fill your boots on whatever you want to spend on a right back, like, no problem. But FSG have a model that they stick to, and they are our owners, and that ownership model doesn't work with a $300,000 a week right back, because that's centre forward. Does
anyone pay $300,000 a week for a right back in any club in the world? I'm not sure anyone does.
And you don't get the return off Trent in terms of assists and goals that we were getting 3 or 4 years ago anyway. No. So I don't see that it ever really has warranted it. So I think for 150 grand a week, you probably get the same amount of assists and you get a better defender.
It's weird, because by all accounts, they might have offered them that much. There's some reports out there that they have.
But I don't think you should. I think where you need to focus is on improving this front line massively.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the difference between us and Paris Saint-Germain this season in the Champions League. It's the difference between what we're going to see from Real Madrid in the latter stages. It's fucking pace, and that's the one thing that we're lacking. So if you can get a faster right back in and 3 fast lads up front, we'll be in as good a situation next season.
You can't.
But if you lose Van Dijk and Salah, then your whole hope, you're completely fucked.
Yeah,
they're the ones that
you would have to have the summer. You'd have to have the summer of all
that as well, by the way, and this all feeds into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, true.
You'd have to have
it's all a domino effect.
The club will need to do something positive PR wise. Says the PR is shit at the moment. I think on that, I think there's a hit piece coming. If this goes, I think it's reported by somebody. We offered them this much at that time. We offered them this much at that time. We made them the vice captain. We told that vice captain decision. You look back at it now.
I don't think there will be.
I think there will be. How
Klopp-led do you think that was, though? No, I think that was quite Klopp-led, that decision. Because he had his captaincy group, he had his leadership group, he had his people that he wanted in around him, and he was the one that literally went up to him and told him, like...
How much do I think? I think a lot of it was driven because Klopp didn't know he was leaving then, and I think he knew that this situation was happening, and it's a little sweet.
So what I mean by that is how contract tie-in...
I think it was massively with all due respect to Trent Alexander-Arnold, he was not the second best captain candidate, I think, at the club. It apparently pissed Mo Salah off. For example, he wasn't best pleased with that situation.
I think a few instances
he wasn't really in the lead. There was a leadership group.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Alisson and Robbo and all. I think Andy Robbo was probably a better captain than Trent Alexander-Arnold in the sense of what I believe a captain should be. But I do think a part of it was a sweetener. There's a reason Steven Gerrard got made captain, I think, at the time. Sammy
took off Sammy, yeah.
You've got to do something. And I understand it. I backed Jürgen doing it because he might have a wind list in this contract thing. He only signed a 4-year deal. He's going to be in his peak when he goes. I'd quite like this lad to stay. Any little sweetener you can give him, give him. Sean says he will not play for us again. It helps that he's injured. Don't sugarcoat it. We all know what happens in the cop. It could be nasty. I don't know. I don't think you should tar everybody with the same brush. Chris sits on the cop, for example, or might do, and he might not be in the same boat. But there will
be loads of people in there that feel the complete opposite of me.
I 100%. That's
in the hour and a half.
Mate, I'm on here, and the amount of rat emojis, I've never seen so much in my life on the YouTube comments. So I think he probably will play at some point. We'll see how it goes. The reaction, I don't think it'll be amazing. James says it's Bradley's time to shine. GAWA, you never walk alone. See, I think if you said to me now, I can guarantee you Conor Bradley plays every game or most games, and then you buy a decent right back and you invest some money in the forward line. I think that's how you cope without Trent. It's Conor Bradley's injury record's really poor, and I'm sick of Liverpool relying on injured players.
Yeah.
It's the reason I love Diogo Jota, but be arsed being injured all the time. We got to this point with Naby Keita, we got to this point with Thiago, we got to this point with Daniel Sturridge, we got to this point with Adam Lallana. Now I hope Conor Bradley isn't that, but as everything suggests at this moment in time, he isn't. He breaks down. He plays a run of games and he gets injured, and it's been muscle injuries. Yeah. It's a hamstring injury against Real Madrid. It's a hamstring, I think, against Aston Villa. It's a real concern. I think he's fabulous. I think he's brilliant. But it's a bit like when we relied on Daniel Sturridge to be up front, and then he was injured, and we were like, "Oh shit!"
What are you relying on?
It can't be that. Yeah. There's going to have to be some reinforcements brought in. Our two right backs at this moment in time, all three of them are injured. We're playing a centre back there because the lad who's playing got injured. His two backups are quite injury prone, and all of a sudden we're playing a centre half at right back. Yeah, it's something that I think you'd have to do something else. I love Conor Bradley, and if it's him, fantastic. If he can stay fit, but I think it's a worry. Raj. The grass is never greener. It's Trent's loss, in my opinion, says Raj. Yeah, Oisin goes back to Conor Bradley. Here's the answer.
I struggle with that.
Ability-wise, I'm fine. I think he's good.
I still think you get somebody more ready.
Like a Frimpong's been named.
Jeremy Frimpong's probably the answer. But I love Conor Bradley, and I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him in Liverpool Football Club. He's got tons and tons of potential. However, I think you can get somebody 2 or 3 years older, 2 or 3 more years experience, who can just come in, plug and play. That's how we do it. Somebody that Arne Slot maybe knows, somebody he trusts, he knows that he can play the system. Conor Bradley will remain an excellent understudy to whoever the next guy is for me.
Yeah, potentially. Like I say, and he just play, if you can get yourself in the team, get yourself in the team. It's there for you. Evie Ventures with the $2 super chat says the Trent news is first. It's good news that Mo and Virgil will re-sign afterwards. I hope you're right. Yeah, and then Isham says now announce the contracts of Mo and Virgil. Yeah. Maybe, hopefully. That would be nice when that happens, wouldn't it?
Let's see if Robbie Fowler's thing was true, eh?
He said that he thought all three of them.
All three.
He thought he was waiting for Trent to go so he could give them the dough kind of thing. Maybe you'll find out. Sean S. When he did that hand gesture celebrating a goal against West Ham, I thought that would put the rumours to bed. I feel like we got led on, to be honest. Yeah, Trent did that. Turns out that might have meant Spain. It's great over here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that, Dan. Let's put it. And I'll piggyback off Sean's comment here. How do you think he's handled all this? He's tried to do that and being respectful and not talking about it. You can't handle the Madrid PR machine, and it spins in various ways. But Trent has had that was the first time he publicly acknowledged any of this noise, really, and it hasn't gone down particularly well.
No, I think he's been quite naive, actually, to think he could keep it all under wraps and make it a non-story, because, it's Real Madrid, as you say, and the way we've already remarked that they're the best at this game, and the absolute peak of their powers with this, and part of the way they do it and part of the way they manufacture and engineer these situations is through the press, is through Marca, etc. over there. So it was a bit foolish of him to think that you could keep it under wraps. Such a high profile football clubs involved, it was never going to be a non-story. So I would have liked him to have said more, come out and address it, because Van Dijk and Salah, to their credit, have addressed this situation time and time again. Certainly Van Dijk week in, week out. Yeah, and Trent couldn't say that, obviously, because that's where we are. He didn't want to stay, it looks like. You know what I mean? So it was impossible. So I do get it from his point of view, but again, it all comes down to loyalty, comes down to the fact he's been in the club. Yeah, massively so. And it was always going to come to a head. It's come to a head sooner than I thought it would. I must admit, I've started to think in recent weeks we might just get to the end of the season. So the timing of it is not ideal, because as much as we all sit here and think Liverpool should canter to the Premier League title, fuck all's done yet. And the injury might have played a part into why it's come out now, perhaps because we might not see him for a few weeks, so it might just give him a bit of breathing room.
Was Mbappe this international break last year as well, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was fucking 2 years, mate. It was Haaland was similar time to City. Like, it was the best kept secrets are never best kept.
I mean,
when's the last time a transfer or a free transfer happened that you just never? Oh my god, where's that? That just doesn't happen in this world anymore.
Tarnish this though. Like, that's the thing. We've all said that, you know, the Premier League's to be won still. We're all going to celebrate that, but Trent's involvement in any of that, to some people, perhaps not us sat at this desk, but to some people will be a black cloud hanging over it.
100%. And there'll be people at that parade who see him and boom. They just will. So, like that, yeah. But it's worth mentioning. Liverpool haven't said nothing, Trent hasn't said. It's all coming from the other side, and you've got no control over that. And when you're dancing with the devil, Chris, you can't want it to be respectful and all cordial. And we'll just announce at the end of the season. You know, you can't, you put your hand on the stove, you're probably going to get burned. This is what Real Madrid do. Everyone, this is the playbook, the Jude Bellingham playbook, the Kylian Mbappe playbook. This is how they do things. Trent, if he thought, I could keep this quiet until the end of the season, do me parade, swan off into the sunset, go and sign for Madrid, he was massively mistaken.
Yeah, and I don't think he probably thought he could either, to be honest. I think he'd have been stupid to think so. I think he knew that it was going to break at some point. It'll be interesting to see over the next 48 hours how far this goes.
Yeah.
But the playbook is just ignore, isn't it? You know, you see that in politics now, you see that in football. You just ignore these types of things and you don't say anything, and he hides wherever he's hiding because of the injury or whatever, and nothing will be said, and I'm sure there won't be an official statement from Liverpool. It just will be ignored to the best of their abilities. It'll be brought up in the pre-match press conference, of course, against Everton next week.
Slot will
batter away. I don't talk about it. He's a Liverpool player, or the usual jargon that you tend to hear in these situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slot's just on that. Slot's in a very handy position because of his title. Like, if he was manager, he might get asked even more about, or he'd be more inclined to answer it. But because of his head coach title, he doesn't.
To be fair though, Jürgen never answers stuff. Jürgen would always go.
It's easier for him though.
Yeah, it's easier, but he never do. You say, I'll speak about that.
Yeah, and rightfully so. But as a manager, you are more inclined.
Even after with the Bobby stuff, it was reported everywhere. Bobby might be leaving. Jürgen was asked about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, contract talks. We keep that private." Like, everyone knew it's an easy cop out. I think for managers, fair to get away with it. Receding hairline, I think that's a dig at me. Says Trent. I mean,
well done.
Yeah, take your pick.
Yours would be receded.
Yeah, gone. Going.
Like Trent.
Yeah, like Trent. Yeah. Van Dijk, Salah, Alexander-Arnold. Trent leaving for free exposes how fans think of FSG spending. We won't get money to reinvest, hence we will penny pinch and not sign top guys. Again, I go back to it. And Darwin Núñez might be the massive exception in the room here. I tend to think when they sign players, they sign good players. The Núñez one is now...
We don't know yet, do we? Sorry, we don't know. Because Vinicius Hughes is the guy.
True. Yeah, it's a fair point. If it depends on Michael Edwards, how involved he is. They tend to sign good players. If you weren't Liverpool to go out and spend £90 million on a right back, I just don't think anyone. I don't think that's the case. Will they have somebody lined up? I would trust that whoever they buy is going to be a good player. But listen, again, there's exceptions to every rule. Darwin Núñez appears like it was, one of the record signings. And it appears like that one's isn't working out and isn't going to work out. But
I do think we'll get the money to reinvest, though. I just don't think you get as much money if you got a transfer fee.
Yeah.
I mean, for a start, like, you can look at his wages that they were proposing to offer, and that would be considerably higher
than what the guy will come in.
I mean, you look at Mane to Diaz. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mane's on close to 200. Diaz comes in on 60. You know what I mean? And the difference there is,
the transfer fee.
Fucking huge. It's the transfer fee, isn't it? You saving yourself £150,000 a week for 52 weeks, and there's $5 million a year. There's There's a £25 million transfer straight off the bat. Like, you think about the amortization side of things.
Yeah.
Just on the savings that you've made there, you're talking 300 grand a week. You're saving $250,000 probably a week. That's £1 million a month. That's £12 million a year. That's a £50 million signing straight off the bat.
I think they will sign a right back. I would trust them to get it right. But you are right. I'm thinking that of Michael Edwards, Richard. We don't know. Richard Hughes has signed one lad and he's played 10 games. And
there's no evidence to back it up. The main concern is we are sell to buy. People hate to hear it, but it's true.
That's the problem. That's the ultimate problem with all of this.
Yeah, we're not selling them.
We
might sell some others, but
you know, in the PSR world now, though, aren't most teams now sell to buy? Or you get players on free transfers.
FSG's whole strategy was based on PSR/FFP being effective and having teeth. Absolutely.
And if it doesn't, that's what I'm saying. I think everyone has to be in that boat now, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this.
We do it better than most. And when I said earlier on that FSG, one of the things they have got right by and large is the appointments of best in class in sporting director roles. Michael Edwards being the absolute prime example of that. We don't know about Richard Hughes yet. This summer will tell us a lot. And the fact that Michael Edwards is behind the scenes might well be handy, and because he can lean on him, he can guide him, etc. Julian Ward's still involved in some capacity as well. So there are people in the building in terms of the recruitment side of things that should get this right. The proof will be in the pudding. I
think it's worth mentioning on this one again. I know you guys are okay to carry on. We're good.
Yeah.
Like, we all wanted the PSR world, and because we thought it'll be fairer. There are always other consequences that you don't think of to stuff like this. I think one of the consequences of PSR now is that Real Madrid aren't going to just go, okay, that's fine, we're not going to get the best players. They will find another way to get the best players, and they've now got this way of tapping players up to 2 years in advance to get them. Like, there are always circumstances.
I said at the beginning of this show, this is what the clubs in England are going to start doing to each other. When you can lose 150 million or whatever it is in 3 seasons, it's going to be very hard for any club in English football to spend 150 million pounds on Alexander Isak when you can wait 2 years and get him for free. That's just the way that all these clubs are going to have to start to operate. Now, it has a knock-on effect, which I think is really interesting. The teams lower down the league get to keep the best players for longer. Yeah, well, that's a really interesting thing.
Look at Bournemouth now with Kirkes and Houston, for example. You know what I mean? I don't think that will happen. I don't think it'll play out like that. But you're right. There is a world whereby that
you have to spend, like Caicedo, money to get a player out of a club. You're right. I think sell to buy in effect. This PSR might hurt the top of the I don't know, we'll find out in due course. We've got loads of super chats, so I want to crack on. If the Madrid fans start turning on him, he'll hate at Madrid until his contract expires. Does he stay at Madrid? Where does he go? Says Q Blaze. Yeah, a bridge is completely burnt back to England. Is there a chance he comes back to Liverpool? I don't know. He won't be thinking that though. He'll be backing himself to go to Real Madrid and do well. There's always someone who'd have you. Like, listen, he's too good of a footballer just to be cast aside. Bayern Munich. Real Madrid, leave you go to Bayern Munich, you go to Paris, you can go back to England. Yeah. Like, there's always, there's always...
Failure won't have crossed his mind. It won't have entered his thoughts for a single second.
He very rarely fails, does he?
And rightfully so, because he's a wonderfully gifted footballer.
And that's how sportsmen reach the top.
You don't get there without that in your mindset.
And, and also there's a 30 million euros or whatever that you're just sitting on.
But it is a fair point. Having said that, because from a fan perspective, we can look at the flip side of it and say, what if? Because we've seen it before. We've seen it go wrong. We've seen players be adored in one place and go to Real Madrid and be universally hated, and look what happened after. And that's possible, because to come back to an earlier point, I think as Super Champ made, like, we've been very forgiving with Trent in terms of when he has had bad days, when he has had poor performances, and we have again gone in and defended him to the entire nation sometimes when it comes to what he's capable of and what he's not. He won't get that same luxury over in Spain.
LFC Cooley, thanks for your Super Chat, mate. He asked also about the West Ham celebration. We did touch upon that earlier, but I do appreciate what you said there. Marines Malevolence, get Robbo on the vice captain immediately. He's a much more loyal servant. He is the vice captain, Chris. Can you have a vice captain of your football club who's announced or is going to leave your football club, or do you have to make the change? We've seen teams in the past do this, where they've stripped the player of a title of some sort because they were going or getting off. That's a difficult one for Arne Slot.
That is a very difficult one for Slot.
Virgil van Dijk, fingers crossed, plays 9 games, and it's different with him because he wants to stay. But if Virgil gets subbed off, or like they're trying to get minutes or resting players, and he's got an armband, and he gives it to Alexander-Arnold when everyone thinks he's going to Real Madrid, that is a sticky situation. That's difficult.
It's interesting.
That's huge for Arne Slot.
I would not like to have to make that decision myself. That's a difficult one, isn't it? I think
you have to take it off him.
I think he'll probably keep it. I don't think it's the decision that I would make, but I think he'd probably keep him on it.
I think I'd take it off him.
I agree. And Slot shown that ruthless streak. He was quite ruthless with Trent early season, wasn't he? Kept taking him off with like half an hour to go all the time, and I think he'd follow suit, and I think he'd take it off him.
Imagine the storyline that. I think he has to just play every game. Like, just
avoid it.
Yeah, avoid this at all costs.
Who would be a candidate from the current crop? Is it Robbo?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
100%. Robbo.
Is it? Yeah.
Allison would be up.
Allison was the one I was thinking.
If Robbo wasn't on the pitch, because he splits his time. What about
next? Sorry, fast forwarding a little bit here.
Well, is Van Dijk staying in this situation?
Yeah, let's do Van Dijk staying.
Van Dijk stays. Who's the next vice captain?
Yeah.
Probably Robertson, I guess.
I struggle with that because I don't know how much you're going to
Yeah, but Milner was the vice captain and he never played.
Yeah, okay, but I mean,
I think you have to have 3
levels of leadership.
I think you have to have 3.
Yeah, okay.
If it's Van Dijk and then Robbo,
yeah,
there is someone else. So with Liverpool, for example, that time if it was Henderson and Milner, they both weren't guaranteed, and then I think Wijnaldum was always the next one in line a little bit. I think you'd have to say that.
It's like a McAllister come into this conversation.
Well,
Not ahead of Alisson.
Does Alisson stay? Because we don't know.
Yeah, Alisson stays.
Then it's Alisson.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'd also, by the way, I think there's a massive opportunity to butter Mo Salah's arse with a little bit here.
Give him that carrot. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't know how much he cares, but vice captain as well, mate. Just if you have to do it, I go back to the Trent thing before. Fill your boots. Give him a fucking statue if he needs it. You know, what I mean, massage that guy's ego as best you can. Cinema surgery. I knew Trent was off the moment he reacted to being subbed off against Brentford, one of Slot's first games in charge. A calculated attempt to build a narrative. I've not. I think at the time I thought, but from what I've seen of Alexander-Arnold since, and actually since the Man United game, because I thought he'd gone. I go back to it. He got injured flying into a tackle in a Champions League game. He was the best player in a few games. You know, that goal he scores, West Ham. Yeah. No, Aston Villa. Yeah. His celebration at Aston Villa shows, like, I do think he gives I don't know about that. I think it's all orchestrated, and I think he's known he's doing this for a while. But I think he's been able to
I think we've seen both. I think we've seen moments whereby you think, okay, he's thrown it in here, and I think we've seen the complete opposite of that, whereby he's completely committed to the cause, which is kind of lended itself to my confusion around the narrative of it all, because I've been in like, oh, he's definitely going to stay, oh no, he's definitely off, and I think that's because of the way he's acted out the season.
Anthony says, yeah, and listen, I don't agree with the second part, Anthony, because I think you cast all Madrid fans aren't racist or the Spain stuff. He says, it does seem a bit odd that he could have been the next Gerrard, the local lad captaining his boy club, until he goes to Madrid to get racist. Listen, I think that's horrendous. I don't think that's the case at all. But he is turning down the chance to captain Liverpool, Chris. He's chosen Real Madrid. He is choosing Real Madrid over the chance to be Liverpool's next captain.
Yeah, and back to the beginning, isn't it? That's why it hurts, doesn't it? Because you know he's going to be part of a team. He could have been more than that at Liverpool. He could have been, you know, more than that to this city. Yeah, it's shit.
The final whistle, Super Chat. FSG are going to be exposed this summer.
Yes, that's on the cards. It's a huge summer.
We've got no idea what.
No, as much as
people like predicting the future at this moment in time. Liverpool could lose Alexander-Arnold. They could go and sign a £30 million right back. They could sign a striker, and when we crack on again, there's a world where that happens. There's a world where it goes to shit. And I think
exactly. And
I'll be honest, like you've got to be. Who knows? You're asking to predict the future,
but there is a lot of pressure and attention to get it. And I think we've mainly been in positions of strength heading into most windows, and there has been minor tweaks. I've sat here and said I think we need to go and do this and this, and it hasn't happened. January was one of those instances whereby you could have signed and strengthened the squad, and maybe who knows what would have happened thereafter. But this summer looks absolutely ginormous. And if we get it wrong and we don't invest enough, then fingers will be pointed, and rightfully so. It'll be difficult to argue against that at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah,
if there's a summer where they're going to be exposed, it's this summer.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Isn't it? Because there's so much work to do in this squad.
Sometimes it can be luck and sometimes it can be circumstance. If you'd have said last year to me, when we only signed Federico Chiesa, and you told me Ryan Gravenberch's going to play DM all season, you're going to have a striker who, in and outside, don't really score goals, Liverpool are going to win the Premier League and get to a cup final, I'd have fucking laughed your head off. If you'd have said to me at the start of this summer now, when we played Ipswich, I was thinking top 4 and hopefully win a cup. So sometimes it can just work out for you and you get away with it. Like they could have been exposed last summer. If we'd have been if we'd have been now what I'm trying to think of maybe what Manchester City are doing. And I think everyone would be like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Sometimes it pans out in different ways. Did they get lucky? Because no man, Arne Slot come in and just Ryan Gravenberch, your DM, and Ryan Gravenberch proved them right. Sometimes it is just luck, you never know. They could sign 7 lads next summer. The difference
is, this summer for us, we are in a situation of our own making.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah. From every other summer, you could always have people arguing one way or the other about whether Liverpool actually needed the signings or not.
That's it. This
summer there isn't. I don't think any argument that Liverpool won't need signings because you're already going to have a right back that you need to sign. You got Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk out of contract. You've got a centre forward place that's being filled in by all accounts your backup left winger now. You know, there is so many things.
We had the left back situation.
It's a huge fucking issue, and so and most of it is down to the fact that the way that we've managed the club and the way that one of our signings hasn't really worked out.
We've got loads of good goalies, if that helps. Like
we've got
a surplus of goalies coming in.
We're going to lose one, but you're absolutely spot on.
You're right, mate, I agree, by the way. I think listen, I know I'm going to say this, but like Paul got a lot of stick in the last year, but he done the like, do we need signings thing, and everyone was going, he's fucking talking bollocks and stuff, and actually Liverpool are going to win the league. So
I don't think they'd have hurt.
No, I'm not. I agree. But what I'm saying is the word "need" is different to different people. I think you are going to need to sign a right back. There is nothing you can do. You can't rely on Joe Gomez and Conor Bradley as your right back options. That can't happen. There isn't really a kid ready to come through. So I think I hate when you need to buy someone because you can make bad decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you should always just be looking for good players and bring him in. When you buy for need, it's a bit like you make bad decisions. You get what's left. You know what I mean? Liverpool have found themselves now where they need a right back, and that can be a good thing. They can get a good one, but Liverpool needed a DM, and with all due respect to Endo, he's done a good job. Don't get me wrong, but that was a necessity. We were like, we're fucked. Our lads have gone, and again, I go back to Endo, good player, but when Fabinho left, we all wanted something a bit better. So I hate when Liverpool have, you're right, they're in a corner now, and I think that you can make bad decisions when you're stuck in corners. You're always better, and so I go back to the Mamardashvili thing. Who knows what's going to happen of it? Liverpool did that without needing to do it, and that gives you better options, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Future plan. They haven't got that at right back now because they need a right back. And listen, you can go and buy a good one. They needed a centre forward, and then listen, they went and bought one. And at this moment in time, it hasn't quite worked for Darwin.
The future planning stuff though is interesting, isn't it? Because like maybe if they'd seen him this season, do you think they'd be in for him?
Perhaps not, because he's gone badly downhill.
No, it can work both ways.
Yeah.
That
is a mad thing though, isn't it? Like when you talk about like planning for the future, you'd probably rather have decided to watch him for an extra season and then make your decision.
A lot of it's luck, isn't it? A lot of it's luck.
It is luck, and that's where it kind of...
Look at Naby Keita. We got Naby Keita a year early. We planned brilliant, and when Naby Keita played, he was great. No one took into account that I can't stay fit. No. You know, like the football transfers are so...
Liverpool get more right than they don't, to come back to your early point, and the only hope will be that we've known so far in advance that we are going to be in a situation where we need to replace Trent, that we've done loads of due diligence on the options that are out there.
The second he was rejecting contracts, you'd like to think someone somewhere was going, he's not staying. With Van Dijk and Salah, I think it's different. I think obviously you still do your planning and you're looking ahead, but I think there's more of a case of you're being told by all accounts these lads want to stay, so there's a deal to be done. If there was never a deal to be done for Alexander-Arnold, I would like to think now, Dan, that they know their target and they're working on it now.
But the thing is, with the Van Dijk and the Salah stuff, whether they stay or they don't, the problem still exists. You're just kicking the can down the curb a little bit.
Yeah, but
you still got to find somebody regardless. So I think it's an easy situation to plan for the future from, because even if they sell it in 2 years' time, they're probably not a starter for you.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's easy to replace someone when you're not trying to replace them yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. Liverpool replaced Sadio Mane with Luis Diaz. Now, whether you think that's worked or not, that's up to you. But like they did that in advance. They when Mane left, it was like, oh no, we are absolutely desperate for left wing. We have to go and buy somebody. They actually had someone, and a little bit, in other positions that didn't happen in midfield. They had to go out and buy four at the same time. Yeah. And listen, it looks good now, but there was no guarantee it would be. It
looks like we might have to do that this summer with two of our front lads.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And that's why it goes back to that comment. If there is a summer that is going to be exposed, it's this summer. Yeah. And everyone who's been brought in, who's supposed to be best of class, is going to have to prove
it's a massive it's on their toes, so I'm going to have to get some more super chats out.
Go for it.
Brian says, I never want to hear this means more again. It's a joke, Trent, you might regret. Sometimes when players leave and you see some of the things they've said and done, it never works out. Raj, Dan, will this impact our last 9 games? Surely not. Well, again, he's injured for a lot of them. But is there
impact in terms of results? I don't think so.
He's injured anyway. Yeah. I think it'd be more probably if he was fit.
We have missed him when he's not been available. Yeah. But in terms of sort of the feeling around them, no, because he's not there. When he comes back, that might change. One of my biggest concerns around this, obviously, what it means for Liverpool longer term. But if he does come back and there is a lot of animosity and hatred, what does that do to what's supposed to be sort of a celebratory running? I mean, that's one of my...
At that point, if you're the manager, you probably do just take him out the firing line completely.
I'd be very tempted.
I think you do. I think you're right.
As long as it doesn't hurt your run for the title.
As long as it's done, yeah.
Super chat here from Dan Arena. Unfortunately, he owes the club nothing. 20 years of service. You really can't fault him for leaving for personal reasons. I have a deep hatred for Madrid and I'm not a footballer, so I can't empathise. I think
that kind of sums up where I'm at,
I think both things are true. I think both things.
A lot of people, we haven't really mentioned this, but a lot of people, this is over the past 6-8 months or whatever, have said that he should sign a new contract. And it was never going to happen, this, by the way.
And then sell
him. Because that's kind of where people were at in terms of that's what he owes us at least. He owes us the transfer fee. You know what I mean? It was never in his best interest to do that, by the way, nor Real Madrid's for that matter. But that's where a lot of people stand towards, and I think that will ring true today as well.
I think it's a stupid stance, to be honest, that people actually thought that someone would do that.
That's what it'd be a lot of people.
I know. Yeah. I think it's
Paul Joyce just wrote. Paul Joyce just wrote, by the way, Real Madrid are working on finalising the deal to sign Liverpool's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Those discussions are continuing, and Real Madrid confident in signing England international. Thanks to the guys at Anfield sector for aggregating that.
Because just to go on that, like if you are Trent Alexander-Arnold, even take the money side of things out of it, and then all of a sudden Real Madrid have to spend £150 million on you, and you really want to go to Real Madrid, you've put a massive fucking roadblock up.
Well, they wouldn't. Why would anyone spend £150 million on a right back? I'd go back to it.
But yeah, I guess
so it's really stupid.
No, there's no way in a million years he signs a contract and gets sold, because this is not we go back to the PSR thing. Real Madrid.
No one's suggesting they are. Dan was saying months ago that this is what should.
No, I get people suggested it just can't happen. It's impossible. It's impossible. The second he signs a new contract, then Liverpool go, "You're not for sale, lad." Problem solved. Like, what do you do? What do you do? The only way it works is if you put like a release clause in.
Yeah.
And then what's that worth?
Release clause only to Real Madrid.
And then, by the way, guess who gets the £30 million? Liverpool get it, not Trent.
That's where the loyalty comes in. That's where people's sort of crux of the issue was, if you like, because people said it's all well and good if he wants to go to Real Madrid, but if he is loyal to Liverpool, manufacture something like that, whereby Liverpool at least get £50 million of a transfer fee. I'm with you, by the way. I think it's utter nonsense and was the non-starter.
That only works.
That was people's.
It comes out of his pocket then, doesn't it? Because when he goes to Madrid and says
he wouldn't get it.
Yeah, rather than giving me that transfer, give it to Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pie in the sky fantasy.
Likewise.
I just don't think that's ever going to happen. So then going back to what someone asked, what Paul Joyce said. Paul Joyce said you have to finalise. They're looking on finalising a deal. It's getting towards the point where this is more
Joyce and Ornstein then.
It's one of them. So to round up then, yeah, it looks like Liverpool. Yeah, the new. I mean, listen, this is unexpected. This isn't unexpected. Like, this has been coming for a long time, but it feels like more now than ever. I just hope, like I say, it doesn't affect what happens in the remainder of the season. I do think it's a positive. Positive's the wrong word. I think it helps that he's injured in terms of his backlash. I would like him on the pitch. Liverpool are struggling without him, and I said the other day, we're seeing a world with what Liverpool without Trent looks like. But I go back to your point earlier, Chris. This is a side that's moulded to have Trent in it. You can mould a team to have Trent not in it. You've got to go back to the different.
I mean, I go one step further and suggest that you wouldn't just run with this team next season. So you're not really seeing a Liverpool without Trent, because they would sign somebody to play that position, or at least have someone fit who can play that position, who they want to play that position.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had a couple more super chats, so I'm trying to get to as many as they can. Yeah, Mihal says McAllister owed nothing to Brighton, but he signed. That was
yeah, that's true. He had a release clause in,
£35 million in it. It's a different. Maybe you might be right. But it's a different situation.
And he had a lot less loyalty to run on that. He had a lot less loyalty to Brighton than Trent does Liverpool. It's a fair point.
Yeah, like I say, I think the backlash is. I mean, I've seen it now. It's pretty heavy, Chris, and it's quite sad.
Listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm honestly torn as to how to feel about it, because, you know, I do respect what he's done at this football club massively. And I know something Dan said earlier, I do know that he's a Liverpool fan, and that this will have probably been tearing him up inside and stuff as well. It's certainly not a decision that I could ever empathise with or understand how someone as a Liverpool fan their entire life has come to. But I never walked a day in his shoes equally. So, you know, you don't know who's talking to you or what people are saying in your ears or anything else, do you? But it feels like he's had bad advice. It feels kind of like he's fucking us over as a Liverpool fan. And it feels like he's put himself first. And, you know, that doesn't sit right with me, but...
I can understand
why someone puts himself first.
He's entitled to do whatever the friggin' hell he wants, but then the reaction is going to be the reaction.
He's got to prepare himself for that. It's so hard to understand, though, isn't it? Again, while Chris was talking, I was trying to wrap my own head around it still. And to us, Liverpool, playing for Liverpool once is the be all and end all. Like, I've walked out at Anfield, not in the football, but just be there, like doing something. It's everything, absolutely everything. So to be able to do it, and the amount of times that he's done, and have the world at his feet, and to have achieved what he's done in the football club, and to have the prospect of doing more and winning more, which it looks like we're going to do right now, and be the cap, it baffles me to even consider, to even contemplate leaving that and walking away from that. But that's what we decided to do.
Liverpool's more than just the players on the pitch, isn't it?
And
that fella before said it.
Well, he said it. He said himself.
There's one thing as a 42-year-old man who's watched football since he was a fucking child, like you guys have done and stuff like that, is the players come and go and managers come and go and ownerships come and go. The only people that actually genuinely stay forever are the fans, and that is why this has hurt more than anything.
No, absolutely, mate. You're right.
Good point.
You're absolutely spot on. One more thing? I want to go back to this Paul Joyce report, and then we'll start wrapping up. He did say in it, in contrast to Trent, there's more hope of Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah agreeing new deals. Negotiations are continuing with both of them. So before when we said about like the ambition talk and stuff, it feels like Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah are quite happy with whatever the plans are.
No, they've just probably got an extra 50 grand a week now with that budget.
Yeah, but they could get that anyway. Listen, if it was all money, Mo Salah would go to Saudi Arabia.
It's not just about money, is it? It's never been just about money, has it?
No, but this is my point. What I'm going back to is, would they go like, nah, I don't want to be here? If they thought it was all going to fall to shit, why they wouldn't even be? They'd be like, nah, I'm off. We've seen rats jumping off sinking ships before. When clubs have been going bust and stuff. Where like, oh yeah, I'm off. See you later. Till I get out of here. I want nothing to do with this. Yeah. And it does feel like those two want to stay. So maybe they are enthused by whatever the future plans are. I don't know. No,
that doesn't shock me at all, really. The doomsday scenario of all three of them leaving was never really centred around the ambition of it all. It was more around, are we going to strike agreements with those two, and will the money be...
No, sorry, but my point is, I'm going back to the thing where, because a lot of people, I've seen here, Trent's leaving because there's no ambition. Yeah. But if those two sign in a way towards Alexander-Arnold, is that another little knock in the face of, well, the two best lads stayed.
Yeah.
So they're obviously, why are they happy to stay and you're not? It kind of slaps in the face of that. It just feels to me like he really wants to go to Real Madrid.
Absolutely does, yeah. And that's been the whole thing the whole way, hasn't it? And I think that's definitely the reasons as to why. I don't think it's financial. I don't really think it's ambition or trophy-led necessarily. I think it's just he wants to be there. And he wants that lifestyle. He wants that sort of to transcend football, the brand element of it all, like we've already touched upon as well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think in terms of coming back to a Liverpool point of view and in terms of feeling somewhat positive about it all, if Van Dijk and Salah are still desperate to say, that's got to be a good sign that things behind the scenes are in a good place and they're happy, and Arne Slott's going to lead us to some more glory, which is kind of what it's all about. Because
we sat there, Chris, remember on you, Dan, as well, like, when Fernando Torres left, it was sight to listen, I don't want to be here for this rebuild, this is shit, and
this is broken,
like, and they all wanted to go, and Mascherano wanted, like, they all wanted it, slowly but surely, and it was only really, again, Stevie Gerrard kind of stuck it out, and we all loved them for it. There's that, because we have spoke doomsday scenario here, but what you said before, players come and go and stuff, if it's right and Van Dijk and Salah stay, and we don't know that yet, it doesn't feel catastrophic. It feels hurtful and it feels really bad, and you're gonna have a worse right back in theory than what you've got now. It doesn't have to be catastrophic if you get the other bits right. It only becomes a real massive problem if you lose 2 or 3 of them on a free transfer. I think the club can just about survive losing Alexander-Arnold.
Honestly, I think Liverpool can survive and thrive. It's not losing Trent Alexander-Arnold, the footballer, this season that is the problem here for me. It's not at all. It's losing a Liverpool fan to Real Madrid on a free that is the problem for me here. Liverpool can get a better fit at a right back than Trent Alexander-Arnold. Of that, I have no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, it just feels, again, I say this, like, for me, it feels like you're being let down. I don't know. Is that how you feel? How do you feel?
Yeah, massively so.
Which is mad, because it's a fucking football. He's a kid, you know what I mean?
But he's more, again, he's more than that.
Yeah.
Isn't he? He's a Liverpool fan.
It's been real. It's been...
If this was any other footballer who we'd signed 5 years ago, we wouldn't have sat here for an hour and a half. You know what I mean?
I can't believe after an hour and a half still sees these last questions to you was, how do you feel?
No, sorry.
Clearly we both don't have a fucking clue how we feel, but we're really disappointed.
We've spoke for like an hour over. We spoke an hour and a half there, and I'll be honest, I don't know. My head's still a bit like up the wall. I feel like
same. More so now. Say with Andy Robertson. Let's say genuinely, this fucking stupid world we're living in now. I don't know what we got here, but we'd have a conversation about it. Let's say he was at a level where Real Madrid was sniffing around and desperate to sign him because fucking Alaba was injured or whatever the fuck, who cares? We'd all have a conversation and be gutted, but it'd be nowhere near to the same extreme because he's not a boiled red. He didn't grow up idolising Gerrard, etc., wanting to play at Anfield. He's just a lad who we signed who ended up being boss, and off he went. Like, we'd have a 10-minute chat and we'd sing his praises and it'd be great, and we'd talk about the time he chased down every Man City fucker and all. But it's Trent. It's different.
Messi on there.
Yeah, it's different, yeah.
Yeah, Lewis, to the last comment, I'm a Sunderland season ticket holder. This is how we felt when Henderson left. But no player is bigger than your club. No player is ever going to be
Exactly.
bigger than the club. You're all right. It's a difficult situation. It really is. But that is the situation. That's where we're at right now. Until it feels like at this moment in time,
therapy session in progress.
It's a matter of when, not if, and of course we'll keep reacting to it as much as we can here. I think that was a better use of our time than a biased football podcast. My agenda wasn't that strong. If truth be told, it was all right. I was going to be talking about Everton's blue ketchup and stadium issues.
Was that real? I just kind of naturally assumed that was fake.
I'm guessing it was fake. But also,
it wasn't even very blue. It was the wrong colour of blue.
Yeah, it was Man City.
I've seen better blue ketchups when Heinz released them years ago.
Remember that? That was mad, wasn't it? Mad.
And the green one.
Yeah, the green one, yeah.
I didn't think that's how we were going to end this show. Yeah, thanks very much everyone for watching, tuning in, listening. Thanks everyone for the super chats, all the comments. You guys are the best. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to Dan. See you all later.